This movie is rated PG.
Oh, shit!
And this bloody on-screen pregnancy death is PG-13. But if you drop the F-bomb twice, you get an R rating.
Fuck. Fuck! 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 Fucking fuck! Fuck! Fucking bugger! 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 Buggity! 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 Fuck! Fuck! Off!
Yes!
Unless you're this movie.
And you say, Sean Parker says, fuck you.
Along with my hoodie and my fuck you flip-flops.
Or this movie, which also has a woman sleeping with a 13-year-old minor. Wait, so who decides this? Some committee of retired film directors and psychologists and cultural experts? Not quite.
Jim Rex? What's Jim Rex? Would you believe a movie audience guide presented as a public service by this theater's management to help you select your motion picture entertainment? Well, that's what it is. And we urge you to learn these rating symbols and use them as a guide for you and your family. This seal in advertising indicates that the film was approved under the Motion Picture Code of Self-Regulation.
Every time you go to the movies, you see this at the start of every trailer and every film, the MPA Rating. The Motion Picture Association's guide to which movies are, or are not, appropriate for children. Oh, and PG-13 came later because of this scene. But things don't always make sense from an audience point of view, and it's because times change and things that we once thought were acceptable are not anymore, and vice versa. Things that were once taboo in the 1900s are now perfectly fine. I chatted with Barry Freeman, a former MPA reviewer and expert consultant on the rating system.
The MPA doesn't tell you how to make your film, but they will tell you what rating it'll get if you submit it in that form. So in other words, you submit a film that's an R-rated film, which is basically you need an accompaniment if you're 17 or under. And they're not going to tell you can't have sex or violence or drug use or language, all the elements that could make it, a higher rating. They just say you can't have it with the rating that they're giving it.
If you can believe it, the official MPA rating system was not established until 1968. That's after my parents were born. Before then, the association had the Haze Code and basically said, hey guys, don't be jerks, you know what's ethical or not, and gave them a self-imposed set of guidelines for movie warnings. As you can imagine, didn't last very long. It went through many revisions, not to mention some of these guidelines were just not great. Law, natural or human, shall not be ridiculed, nor shall sympathy be created for its violation. The technique of murder must be presented in a way that will not inspire imitation. Arson must be subject to the same safeguards. Methods of smuggling should not be presented. Excessive and lustful kissing, lustful embraces, suggestive postures and gestures are not to be shown. Miscegenation, sex between black and white races, is forbidden. Yikes. Today, filmmakers have to keep in mind the MPA rating while writing and editing their movies. This is important for both legal and profit reasons. Let's face it, an NC-17 film carries a stigma that won't sell as many tickets as a family-friendly PG.
If you're a filmmaker that says, I want to have all these different elements and I want them to be at the highest extreme, like maybe you're kind of a shock filmmaker and you want to have everything in there because there are people that like all that stuff, all the different elements. The MPA says fine, but it's going to be an NC-17, which is, I call it the kiss of death for box office. It's basically very, very rare that national chain will pick up an NC-17, which is the rating above R. It's patently adult. And if they do, unless it's got some kind of push behind it, some kind of angle, it's going to do very poor box office.
Filmmakers have three options once they get their MPA rating. Accept the rating that they are given, appeal for a redo, or re-edit the film to achieve the rating that they want and submit again. An example of this is American Psycho, which was NC-17 at first, but managed to cut one scene to get an R rating. 1.4% gets appealed and 0.6% are overturned. There's not too many appeals, which means they're pretty spot on, it seems.
If you're a filmmaker working on a very tight budget, to appeal is another expense that you're going to incur. If you're making a $200,000 film and you're working off of credit cards from family and friends, if you're a major studio and you have a time limit on advertising and getting the release out to the theaters, if it's time sensitive, that could be a problem as well. I think on the whole, the MPA does a good job with the rating system. It's not easy because it's not a one-size-fits-all and everybody's different. So you're always going to have complaints. And there are, of course, directors and producers who use the MPA as an advertising weapon. They'll get the higher rating. They'll make all kinds of hubbub about it. All the plans all along were to already have the edits in place to get the rating that they eventually want. So there's all kinds of games and cat and mouse played in Hollywood.
Okay, now it's time to actually meet the people who dish out the ratings. Oh wait, we can't, because they're secretive. So, back to Barry. When I was reading online, a lot of the criticism was, well, we don't know who these people are. They're so secretive. And even that movie, you know, this film's not yet ready. They go on this whole hunt of trying to track down these people, figure out who they are, investigate them, and like corner them for conversations. But you say it's really diverse, but online there's this, I guess, this fear of not knowing. And they're like, it could just all be one demographic, one income, but it sounds like it's actually not that.
When I was there, the board had a pretty wide demo. That's been a common complaint about who are these people. I think what they do is they shield the raters and they make them anonymous because they don't want the outside interests to get a hold of these people and maybe make it, you know, some kind of conflict. I think it's basically to make sure that there are no outside interests that can interfere with their job.
These are basically decided by 10 random parents in the Los Angeles area. That's nuts.
It is, and no one knows who those parents are until this film came out. Their names have been kept secret for nearly 30 years.
They try to get a wide demographics of gender. They may have a combination of straight and gay people, different ages, things like that. So apply to be a rater, but they typically want you to have fairly young kids when you join the board and have some kind of common sense to look at a film and say, what would the typical American parent rate this, which is awfully tough because there's no such thing in my mind as a typical American parent.
In a past interview with the Los Angeles Times, the then MPAA chairman Charles Rivkin said, I think it's been a misconception of our system to call it secretive. We need to capture what America is thinking. We listen to our consumers, we survey, and we amend and adjust the system over time. To be very clear, I'm actually not against the MPA at all because I actually don't believe that art should be censored in any sort of way. I think that you should have the freedom to make whatever you want and just accept a rating and just inform audiences what you're actually doing. I remember when I saw the movie Pan's Labyrinth, parents took their kids into theaters thinking it was a fairy tale movie, and then this scene happened, and all these parents screamed and pulled their kids out of the theater. So you know what? It shouldn't be censored at all. They were informed. Without the MPA, I think the government would just step in and censor things, which is something that we don't want, which some foreign countries actually do, and I disagree. I think that artists have the right to express themselves, whether that's culture, religion, politics, LGBTQIA, anything like that, without fear of any sort of backlash. And I think the MPA is there to protect artists from getting completely banned in the film world. The question is, can the MPA be consistent when our society changes so rapidly from even year to year?
The American attitude towards LGBTQ plus content, they've come up a lot in the US as far as rating similar content in that community and the straight community. My opinion is it's not all the way there, but it's a lot closer than it was even like 15 years ago.
Hey, I just wanted to thank Barry for doing the interview. It was really awesome getting to talk to an MPA expert on this subject. And thank you to my supporters on Patreon. You know, some of the topics I cover on this channel are a little controversial. And on top of that, there's tons of copyright issues with showing movie footage. So thanks to supporters like you, I'm able to keep funding these films. What do you think of the MPA? And more importantly, what's a movie that you've seen recently where you were like, that movie should not have gotten that rating? Let me know in the comments below, and in the meantime, go be a rebel and go film something.